Hello, my name is Shalom Kelman. Today we will discuss Perek Kuf Mem Zayin and Tehillim as part of the project in memory of Sarah Lamb Drach, Sarah Rivka Bas Harav Nachum Umindel. Sarah was my first cousin. My mother and Mrs. Lamb are sisters, and I've known Sarah my whole life. We had a very warm relationship, and very often Sarah would call me about her eyes, because I'm an ophthalmologist. She'd like to know the latest news on our eyes. And she also discussed with me issues relating to Torah Mada and Torah and science, because she knew I was interested in this topic. So I thought today would be an opportunity to discuss one aspect of Torah and science in the context of this Perek and Tehillim. The pasuk I'd like to focus on is Moneh Mispar Lakochavim B'chulam Shem Lo Sipra. That God counts the stars in the universe and gives each one a name. The context of the pasuk in the rest of the Tehillim is one of God's wonders. He heals the sick. He comforts those who need comforting. He is mashpil v'shoyim, and he throws the down, the shoyim of the world, and the oded another. But what is this idea of the stars and counting them? What does it have to do with anything? So I'd like to suggest an approach based on Rav Aryeh Kaplan, Zachron Avrocha, that he discusses in his translation of the work, the Sefer Yetzirah. Sefer Yetzirah is an unusual Kabbalistic work, the kind of thing you would expect an Aryeh Kaplan to translate, with copious notes. No one really knows the author. We have a tradition that it goes back to the days of Avraham Avinu, and perhaps even other Marishan. Scholars more recently suggest that it was probably written around the Bias Sheni period, perhaps by Rabbi Akiva. The book is known for its mathematical concepts. Even in secular works, the Sefer Yetzirah is noted to be the first vocation or source for concept in math known as factorials. Factorial is the idea that you take a number and take, say for example, 5 factorial. That would mean multiplying 5 by 4 by 3 by 2 by 1. That's what a factorial means. Multiply all that number by the numbers lower to it, all down to 1. And it has usefulness in the context of combinations of letters, which the Kabbalists were very interested in. In the context of this pasuk, Aryeh Kaplan has a tremendous insight. He notes that if you take the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, how many possible combinations can one make of those 22 letters consisting of words, 22 letters long, but without any repeats? And the answer is 22 factorial. And the way we get that is by looking, for example, at the first position of this 22-letter word, this name. We're going to use a name for a star. So the first position is one of 22 letters. That's 22. The next position is one of the remaining letters, 21. That's 22 times 21. The next position is one of those remaining letters, which is now 20. And you continue down the line, 22 times 21 times 20 times 19 times 18, etc., times 2 times 1. That will be the number of different combinations we can use and make from 22 letters to create a word 22 letters long without any repeats. Kaplan notes that that number is equivalent to 10 to the 21. Check it out yourself. Go online to Wolfram Alpha and plug in 10, 22 factorial, and you'll end up with 1.1 times 10 to the 21. So what's the significance of that? Well, he points out, if you look at the number of stars in the universe, it's equivalent to that number. If you would go to the planetarium, for example, which I have actually recollections as a young child going with my cousins, the Lamb family, to visit the planetarium and the Museum of Natural History on the Upper West Side. So as you go into those, you go to the planetarium and ask a docent, ask he or she, how many stars are in the universe? And they would say, well, there are 10 to the 11 galaxies, galaxies being a cluster of stars. There's about 10 to the 11 galaxies in the universe, and there are about 10 to the 10 stars per galaxy. So together, there's about 10 to the 21 stars in the galaxy. Over the years, that number has pretty held up as a very good estimation. It's a very amazing phenomenon that scientists are able to count stars and these star surveys and come up with these numbers which seem to be reproducible over and over again. So now looking back at this pasuk, it's just astounding. Mona mispar l'kol chavim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has enough letters to create name for each one of the stars. How many names? 10 to the 21. Why? Because he has he has a name for each star. There are 21 stars, 10 to the 21 stars in the universe. He has one with 21 zeros afterwards, and for each one he has a name. So this to me was always an astounding, feat of the Aryeh Kaplan that he pulled out from the Sefer Yetzirah. It says so much about how today's science is able to confirm what we find in the Chazal, which how Chazal knew probably be from some type of special Masorah. In fact, Kaplan points out there's a passage in the Gemara that also seems to confirm another method of calculating stars, which also comes out to 10 to the 21. But it gets even deeper for me. Years later, I came across a book in physics where, in discussing these concepts, it turns out that there are the number 10 to the 21 comes up again in the number of grains of sand on the beaches of the earth. So why they did this calculation, I'm not sure. It was from the University of Hawaii, but they're interested in beaches. But the fact is that they came out with a similar number. Again, there's some standard error and there's some slop in the data, but it's on that range, 10 to the 21, 10 to the 22. For our purposes, to me, it's about equivalent. So what's so amazing? Well, if you look at the Akedah, and the Kodesh Baruch Hu's promise to Avram Avinu of the Akedah, what does it say? This is in Perek Beis, Pasuk Yud Zayin. Ki barich avarechacha v'habar abe ezaracha k'chochavei hashamayim v'chachol asher al sipas hayam. The Bnei Israel will increase in multitude to the point that we are compared to the stars of the universe and to the grains of sand on the beaches of the oceans. And why were those two entities chosen for this analogy? It's astounding. They are in the same vast number, 10 to the 21. Each one of those numbers are just so gigantic we can't understand, can't conceive of them. And yet the Torah chose these two entities because they share that same number. So this again is a tremendous, to me, help in my emunah to see that Kodesh Baruch Hu has great knowledge. You know, of course, he does. But now, today, we're able to find in our own world of science affirmation that one of the reasons these two entities were chosen for this analogy is not only what the Chazal will make choose because whatever drasha may be appropriate, but just from a purely mathematical standpoint, the numbers are equivalent. So I hope that this type of analysis will be a zechus for Sarah, who was always interested in these types of topics. There should be another aspect I wanted just to mention is that I'm very proud to be part of the extended land family, and particularly my dear uncle, who is really the head of the period of our time in terms of Torah Mada, and I owe so much to him and to our family for fostering this whole approach to Judaism and to recognize that we're living in incredible times, and that the idea of merging and seeing the world from the perspective of a combination of a Torah tradition and a science tradition, and merge them together makes it much more tiferes, a beautiful world. Which being again, and the chama for the family and the zechus for Sarah. Thank you.